stuff about lots of things. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1139. And I am super excited because I have a super fantastic, sparkling guest on this evening. The one, the only Mr. Casey Eberhart. Casey, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here, Helen. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm super excited because tonight we get to talk about you and your event that's coming up next week. We don't get to talk about me tonight, which is awesome. I love that. So
well, I'll see if we can turn that around.
Oh, I know you'll find somebody. I have no doubt about that at all. But next week we have got Networking Riches coming up. Now, you've been doing this event for 8 years, and that's massive. And every time I bring up Networking Riches on the show, I talk about how I've only missed 2.5 of the ones that you've done. The half being 5 years ago when Brad was in hospital in August, and I was attending from his bedside and having to get offline every time a doctor or a nurse came in to do whatever they had to do because we didn't know how long we were going to talk. But the other 2, I was actually down in New Zealand on those 2. So I've only missed 2.5 in the last 8 years. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good record, I think.
That's not a bad record.
But the thing I like about Networking Riches is every time I have come, you've got something new in there, some little nugget, and then the brain is ready to pick up something that you've said over and over and over and over again. And the brain suddenly goes, oh, we're ready for that little bit of information now. And I love that. But I have a question that suddenly popped into my head. With the global pause that's been going on the last 3 years, how do you think networking has changed going from being in person to being online?
So it's a great question. So let me kind of start with the premise of why the event even exists in the first place, right?
Well, that would be a good place to start.
So, and really I'm going to answer the question in answering the question, and that is that networking, much like strategy, much like building relationships, much like dealing with a global pandemic, is all about change and evolution and growth, right? So the reason the event actually exists was because I kept getting asked over and over in this question, which is, how do we walk into a room and you barely know anyone, yet everybody knows who you are? It ain't because I'm good looking. I mean, look at my face. I've got a face for radio, right? But it's really because that I just figured out early on that building a network, that asset of a network, is the most valuable thing that you can build. It's above beyond a dividend paying stock or a crypto or whatever. If you understand how to build a network of people around you that increases your visibility, your credibility, and ultimately your profitability, once you have the formula, the strategy, the system that can do that, then it's just a matter of semantics. We're going to plug in this piece, take out this piece, plug in this piece, plug in this piece. I mean, for crying out loud, years ago, I was talking about Periscope and Vine, for crying out loud. We don't even barely know what those are now. You can probably pick up the domain on Namecheap, right?
And so about Periscope, I never heard of Vine.
Vine was the precursor, I believe, to TikTok. Like, it was like a quick 15-second video that you could do on Twitter. Like, it was crazy. But it was sort of like, how did I end up running an amusement park, moving to Los Angeles, and within a few years producing major motion pictures, and a few years later being able to speak and train all around the world? Those 3 things are very different. Why? It's just because I had a system, a plan, a formula. So Networking Riches really is just the fundamental system or formula that will allow you to unlock the ability for you to create influence and create a network around you pretty much anywhere you go in a very, very short amount of time. We're just going to compress that time. And so when you ask, Helen, what has changed? I don't look at it as any bigger change than what I was doing 8 years ago to 7 years ago, or 7 to 5, or 5 to 3, or 3 to 2. Mm-hmm. There's just a different evolution in technology. There's a different evolution of what is acceptable and not. There's a different evolution. And in some ways, it's so much more powerful now, or has the ability to be more powerful now, because through the use of technology, our one-to-many message could be one-to-many more than it would be if it was only, in a hotel ballroom with bad fluorescent lights and terrible chicken dinners, right?
Hey, I've had some good chicken dinners at some of those banquet halls.
Notice, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, she said some.
Yes.
Not all, right?
Not all.
But really, Helen, it's the network or one's ability to build that network and to first recognize that that's in fact what you're doing when you're going to a Zoom, or you're going to a networking event, or you're going to a charity ball, or you're going to even a concert or a barbecue or church or community. What I have found is that the people that understand the formula or the roadmap or the treasure map benefit wherever they are. They're growing their relationships. They're connecting with human beings on a human to human level. They're understanding what to look for, what to ask for, what to give. And when you understand kind of how those levers work in tandem with each other, along with a mindset and knowing what to say and who to say it to and how often to say it, quite frankly, is kind of the golden ticket to what almost all business owners, and I sometimes sound like I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's absolutely true, and I'll say it for 8 million more times, and that is that what business owners are looking for is to save time and or make more money. So if you understand how to build that network and you help that network save time and or make more money, it puts you in a completely different category than the people that are just, wanting to go hang around the chocolate fountain and dip a strawberry in a chocolate fountain and pass out 15,000 business cards and hope and pray just, that someone's going to call them to do business.
Business cards, what are those? I don't even remember the last time I had a business card.
Well, that's because you've been around me for a while.
But
there are a lot of people that have business cards, and that's okay. And the reason I say that that's okay is because when you come to Networking Riches, you're going to understand why you don't need to have them, but it's really awesome that everybody else does.
Yes.
And when you understand even something as small as that, here's the thing. Helen, you know this more about Networking Riches than I could sit here and talk about till I'm blue in the face. But the thing that I love about that event is that over the past 8 years and the tons of times we've done it, this is like practical hands-on stuff. It's not a bunch of theory. I literally have you guys taking out your phones and doing exercises, and we're watching results occur in real time, right? I watch people change their background on their Zoom or change their Facebook profile or watch them have real life breakthroughs right at the event with real practical, not massive changes, right? We're not asking you to do a bunch of new stuff, but I'll give you an example. And Helen, you can probably talk about this more than I can, is that when you guys understand what the true, at its core, lifetime value of a customer is, the question I ask after we figure this out as a group is, are you showing up like that's the level of conversation that you're having? And all of a sudden you watch everybody change up and get all of their thing. Are you showing up at the level of the conversation that you're hoping to attract?
The thing that kind of amuses me the most when we're on Networking Riches, especially when we're on the Zoom and stuff, is that when you say that, the number of cameras that switch off and when they switch back on, people have completely changed their outfit.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference because they suddenly realize that, me sitting here in this t-shirt with the tears in it, I want to build a $1 million business, and I'm not dressing the part. I look like I've just been in the garden for 2 hours.
And Helen, so let's go back to your question, which is what has made it so much different than 2 years ago or 3 years ago before the pandemic? What's really made a big difference is the people that were okay with being lazy and showing up like a slob are now broke, and they're having to figure out how to do something different because they've showed up like they're having a $3 conversation. It's like, I just got to go to the Zoom. Why do I need to put lipstick on? Why do I need to iron my shirt or wipe the cat hair off my blazer, or better yet, why even wear a blazer at all, right? And then I'll have a really crappy background with a terrible, bookshelf behind me, or worse yet, a digital background that I want to show you something really cool. This is why you should work with me. Let me show you this. And then the blurs out because you're on a green screen or a white screen or whatever.
I really do not like digital backgrounds.
It drives me bonkers. I mean, I was saying to Helen right before we started this, like, I got on here and I was wearing a shirt, and this is this is in my home office because at my studio, the power is down, right? Well, this is a terrible background, like, no question. But even then, I'm like, we can't start yet. I got to go change shirts. Why? Because the shirt I was wearing was terrible. I mean, it was. I mean, the shirt itself wasn't terrible, but just given this back, anyways.
It was a nice shirt. Just had no color to it. Well, the back had more color than the front did. I mean, you could have just switched it around.
But Helen, that's what's changed over the last 2 years. Is that we have to be more conscientious of different things. The shirt I was wearing before we started this, I would have gladly walked into an event wearing, but we're not at that event. That's not the real world. This right here, right now, in the present, is the real world. And this is where I think some people have decided that they need to take a pass, right? Or they'll pick their hair or pick their nose, or, they'll show up 20 minutes late, or, they'll flip their camera on and off, or it's a hot mess. And so that's where I would go with that.
So, my next question is, in Networking Riches, we go back to basics, which I absolutely love, because this weekend we were talking about going back to basics, and I'm now starting to go back to basics because the basics were working for me prior to when Brad passed, and then when he passed and I was having to do all that self-discovery journey and everything else, I forgot about the basics and going back. And so this weekend when we did our mastermind group, it reminded me to go back to basics. And I've already made strides and things today that probably would have taken me weeks or may not even got done. But what I like about Networking Riches is it takes you back to basics. Yes, you may be the greatest connector out there. There's always something that you can learn, though. I mean, like I said, every time I've attended, I have learned something new. And that's one thing that I love about this, because you never know what you're going to pick up on. Everything looks different from a different perspective based on where you are mentally, physically, emotionally, and that sort of thing as well. And that's what I love about networking. But I have to talk about my breakthrough zones. I love the breakthrough zones.
well, so let's break this down, because those are two really important things.
Oh yeah.
So here's the scoop, gang. We like to have fun. Like, this is a fun event. It's a real-time, real interaction of events. So the reason that we could say that we'll do the same event every month or every 2 months and have people come, and we've had people that have been there for 20 of them, 30 of them. And when Helen says it's learning something new, there's always new and interesting people there. We always have some kind of fun game. I give away cash. We have a lot of fun, and really, this stuff is not complicated and it's not hard. So the way I'd like you to think about it from just the perspective of, is it worth a day and a half of my time, is this. I want you to imagine a big giant vault door, right? And this vault holds everything you've wanted, the amount of money you've wanted, the trips, the girls, the boys, the toys, the whatever it is that you want is behind this vault. And that vault is held shut by a padlock, right? And you can shake that padlock and you shake that door and you can think that you're going to figure it out, and you can go get your WD-40 and squirt it in the lock, and you can try to find a nail file that nails it. But you know what? If you just simply have a key and you stick that key in the lock and you twist it a quarter turn, not even a half turn, quarter turn.
Yep.
The lock pops right open and the door is open to whatever you want. That's what Helen is talking about when it's back to the basics, is it's just understanding that there are a few things that probably need a little bit of brushing up on, a bit of a reminder on, and a way to put them in the right order so that when you walk out of an event, whether it's a Zoom event or a chamber event or a church function or whatever, you have just followed the map. Then it causes a breakthrough, right? And once you understand that breakthrough, it can never be taken away from you. It's really funny. I go to a lot of in-person and Zoom meetings, and it's funny because I can almost always tell whether somebody's been to this event or not. Almost like I'll hear somebody say something, and I'll like, Mike, you've come to one of my events before, haven't you? Yeah, right? Like, how many did you come to? One, that's all I needed, right? Yep. Other people will be like, listen, he's a goofball, and we have a lot of fun, and he, refers a lot of people, and lots of contacts are made, and I've been to 30 of them, right? There's something for everyone, right? And then we do something that personally, it gives me the most joy out of the entire event, frankly. And that is towards the end of day one and the majority of day two, we do what's called a breakthrough zone. And what we really try to do is allow our guests, our customers, our people that are on the event to share a challenge, a problem, a breakdown that they're having in their particular business. And it's very specific. Yet what we do is I've got a couple of people that are there with me, and we kind of help cause a breakthrough for people. It's not for everyone. We don't make everybody do it. We're not about, like, I'm not a guy that's going to force you to make you to do anything. But if you're having a specific challenge, and I don't even care what it has to do with networking, bring it to the party, and we'll help you cause a breakthrough. And Helen loves it every time, and she's like the biggest the biggest proponent of it because she sees what it does for people. I mean, I'll give you guys an example of just one breakthrough zone that happened. So this happened in Colorado Springs. It was a live event. It was pre-pandemic. We had an amazing artist in the room. And let's face it, artists by nature are addicted to being broke. They just want to create art. They're not usually wired as business-minded folks. Some are, but most are sort of introverted, like they're really amazing artists. And we had this amazing artist up in the breakthrough zone. And I remember we started talking about business and how she could create a business out of what she loved to do, her art. And she started tearing up. And it was a real challenge for her. But her emotional breakthrough, because she was open and she allowed us to kind of give her some different feedback and different ideas, put her on a different path. 4 years down the track now, she is literally minting and selling NFTs based on her artwork like they're going out of style. Like she creates one, it sells, creates one, it sells, create one, it sells. And when you and every time in our Platinum Inner Circle we talk about her, she's part of our group still. Every time we talk about it, she's the first one that's like, I was scared, like I was gonna poop my pants. Like, let's just face it, right? And now here she is, and she is so beyond what most artists can even come up with.
Yep.
Now she's literally teaching other artists how to build NFTs and sell NFTs in the metaverse and in the crypto space based on her original artwork. I mean, it's like the coolest thing ever. But it was because she showed up, she suited up, and she was participating, and she was like, you know what? I don't know what I don't know, so I'll give it a try. And she just raised her hand.
Yep.
Now that's an extreme, but it's really powerful if you guys will show up and allow kind of the space to give you and fill you up with some things that will just turn that key, just a quarter turn.
Yep.
Quarter turn.
And what I love with the breakthrough zone, because having been through it myself, which is why I love it so much, because I know the difference that it made in my business at the time, and then seeing other people on the chairs, you can have everything from just a little breakthrough to a massive breakthrough. And we've had a couple of those. There was one, I think it was the hybrid one we did in Colorado Springs, end of last year, beginning of this year, There was that one, and I can't remember what the business was that was up there, but it was like the entire room and everybody on the Zoom was like fixated on this one person, and the ideas that were flowing, they were just like coming out, and this person's eyes were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there would have been a lot of overwhelm in that. I mean, I was overwhelmed watching it and all the ideas that were coming out of it. And I was like, oh, that'll be good for me. Write that one down. Oh, there's another good idea. Write that one down.
Well, and Helen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what you just said is so important to put a point on this. When somebody's in the breakthrough zone, the way that we do this is that it's valuable for everybody in the room, not just the person that's on there. That's why Helen's saying, well, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. Right.
You know, it could be a business that has absolutely nothing to do with my business. But one thing I had learned in PIC very early on, and PIC stands for Platinum Inner Circle, which is Casey's mastermind program. One thing I learned in PIC very, very early on was not to, if an idea comes out and you go, oh, that's not for my business. It was take that idea and turn around and say, how can I make this work for my business? Once you have exhausted all options on how you can make it work for your business and you can't find a way, then you can put that idea aside. Because sometimes there's some really great ideas out there. And you're like, well, how can I make that work for my business? And when you ask that question, it opens you up to possibilities and listening to other people and their ideas and their thoughts as well. And you might find that little key that does that little quarter turn, and you're off and running with that idea. And other times the key just doesn't fit the lock because it's not supposed to.
But here's what's so great about the key that doesn't fit the lock. That key, you guys, might just unlock somebody else's vault. And if you have the key, even though it may not be something that works for your business, it might be an idea, a site, a concept, a person, a referral, a lead generation technique, something that you can pass on to somebody in your network. And I'll tell you this, you know, Zig Ziglar says it a bazillion times, you can have as much as you want as long as you help everybody else get what they want. Part of helping other people get what they want is allowing them to have a key to open their vault that you possess.
Yes. Yeah. I just can't speak highly enough of Networking Riches. I really can't.
We're gonna
have a blast.
It's gonna be fun. Helen's gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. We're bringing in a bunch of friends.
Yes.
You know, we have over 150 people already registered, and we're still 10 days out from this event. It doesn't cost anything except time. And let me just address that for a second. I recognize that your time is the most valuable asset, way more valuable than money, frankly, because you can never get it back.
Yep. Before
every event, I say to our entire team, our entire production team, everybody that's there in support, I say, listen, our job right now is to make everybody in this room have an amazing experience. So I can guarantee you that it's going to be worth every penny you pay for the event. I guarantee it, because it's free, right? Right?
But it's going to be worth their time to attend.
But the time, listen, here's how I think about it. I mean, let's just say that I'm not even going to go into I'm not going to do this as a big training exercise, but I will say this. If you truly understand how valuable one person is in your network, or what one new customer means for you over the lifetime value of building a network or the lifetime value of your business, whatever that number is, if in a day and a half, we can allow you to have 5, 10, 20, 100 of those, that is worth, what is it, 10 hours total of your time?
The other thing, you mentioned something too about the lifetime value of a client. What amazes me every time is that people don't know the true value of their client. And when you give them the formula on how to work it out, and they work it out, and then you talk about showing up to have that conversation for that dollar value, you can see the light bulbs going off, and they're like, oh. Like people are like, the look of amazement on their face is like, wow, that's the lifetime value of one of my clients. wow. And now they get engaged even more and start paying attention more, because now it's sort of like, well, how do I keep those clients? How do I get them? How do I get more of them? And that's another time that I like watching the little light bulbs go off, is when people start throwing those numbers out and they suddenly realize that, oh, I got to go change my ripped shirt.
Well, and I'll tell you, Helen, a wise mentor of mine many, many years ago said to me something, and he actually said it completely in passing. And he's since passed away, but he said it, and I will never forget it, because it was so blah. It was just kind of like, it's just kind of one of these things a mentor says to you, and you're like, wait, that was just like the most golden thing on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like dropped it like it was nothing. And he said, listen, you can only market to a finite number of people.
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, well, I'll tell you the phrase and then I'll go back and break down. You can only market to a finite number of people, but you can attract an infinite number of people. And when he said that, I didn't totally understand until I started diving in. I'm like, listen, there's only so many hours or so many dollars that you can spend on marketing to a certain number of people. You're never going to reach all 3 billion people on this planet, or how many ever there are. But by being a better person and setting up yourself for success and building a network and understanding this network, you can attract an infinite number of those people to you.
Absolutely.
So just that little change from a mindset of like, oh my gosh, I can attract whoever I want into my life, into my business. And it's okay to let some people move on, right? I mean, we talk about that towards the end of day one, is it's okay
Yep.
to let some people move on and continue to have an experience that doesn't include you.
That is so true. Casey, we're at the top of the hour almost, and so we're out of time, unfortunately, but you and I could sit and talk about this for hours. But I want to invite people who are watching, thank you very much for tuning in and watching this evening. Casey, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come and join us on the Before the Dirt Nap podcast. And if you want to join us next week for Networking Riches, go to havetonetwork.com. The link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. And you'll be able to come as our guests and come and join the fun. If you want a couple of days, join the fun.
Helen, I have to say, before you wrap us out here, on behalf of all of us on the planet, thank you. You are one of those people that we can count on, as the collective society can count on, to what you show us is always in a good mood, always ready to learn, always eager to be in the present moment of whoever you're in front of. And we are all better people because of what you do and how you do it. So on behalf of all of us on this planet that are running around here, thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And it's truly my pleasure, because I love helping people and serving. So that's who I am. That nurturer by nature. Yeah, nurturer by nature. So anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening or day if you're watching the replay of this. And we will see you all tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where we have Nicole back with us to talk about our health and help us live that best life now. So until tomorrow, hei konera.
Adios, everybody.